Hey there, this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. Welcome to the Exit Readiness podcast. I'm here with co-host Walter Dial, CPA and tax partner at GRF CPAs and Advisors in Bethesda, Maryland. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building transferable or sellable business value, and then for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that's sellable and then help you exit successfully on your own terms and your own conditions. And if you've listened to us at all in the past, you've heard us say many times on this podcast that a key driver of business value and for a successful exit is what we would call a next level management team. Management team that's going to take the business to the next few levels of growth. And this is true no matter which exit route you choose, be it a third-party sale, an external transaction, or if you want to sell to the management team. The management team is going to be, you're going to be financing part of the deal more than likely, and you're going to need them to pay you back and grow the business at the same time. So the management team is just, a next level management team is just critical to an ESOP, to an internal transaction, to a third party sale, whatever it is. And so in equipping and strengthening your management team, of course, it requires ongoing feedback, doesn't it? As to what clear expectations as to what their roles are. But then also what they're doing well and what they're not doing so well. And this can be tough to do. We have found that it's one of the tougher things for owners. We work mostly with founders of businesses to do is to provide ongoing, consistent, regular feedback to their management team as to what they're doing well. That's usually not a problem. But sometimes what they're not doing so well. And then again, to be clear, concise, consistent. So giving feedback to employees is our topic today because it's so important. And we have back with us today Sarah Goelitz, who we work closely with. Sarah's a consultant and trainer who specializes in helping managers become leaders and be better managers. And she has years of expertise in leading high performing teams and coaching managers and business owners to lead with both skill and heart with a goal of success for all stakeholders. And if you go to our website, ExitReadiness.com, you'll see Sarah there as she works alongside us in coaching and training management teams for a successful exit. So Sarah, welcome back. Great to have you back with us.
Great to be here, Pat. Good to see you, Walter.
Hey, Sarah. Pat said, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. We always enjoy the sessions with you. So let me start by asking just kind of a general question. So why do you think, in all your years of experience, what do you put down as the number one reason why leaders sometimes are hesitant to give feedback?
That's a great question. And I think it's a very human reason. The reason is that we're not used to doing it. There is hopefully no other relationship in your life where you are regularly saying, hey, you're doing this and I need you to do something differently, right? Maybe if you're a parent, but being a parent is very, very different.
All about.
I'm going to leave that there, Walter, and just not ask any questions about that one.
Okay.
But, if you're a parent, you might be having those conversations with your kids, but your employees are not kids. They're adults who have skills and talents. They're here, they're smart, they're doing great work. And there's a reason that you are feeling maybe hesitant about saying, hey, I'm seeing this and I need it to be different. Because you're just not used to having those conversations, and anything we don't have practice in feels uncomfortable, and stuff that we feel uncomfortable doing, we're not likely to do. The good news is that's a solvable problem. There are methods you can use to give clear feedback to your employees that helps them grow. Hopefully you're already giving them feedback on things they're doing well, but you can use certain methods, certain ways of having the conversation. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a conflict. It can be brief and straightforward. And as long as you learn those methods and practice them, it can become just a regular part of your executive toolbox as an owner.
Yeah, and it is uncomfortable for most business owners that we talk to. And like you said, and the life of a business owner is just very busy most of the time. I mean, they're busy people on every level, it seems, and they got a lot going on. And so you know how it is, life, if it's busy and we can occupy our time with a lot of different things, we will often avoid the uncomfortable. But one of the key drivers for a successful exit is for the owner to become less central to the business. And how are they going to do that? They're going to do that by focusing on strengthening and coaching up these managers. Now, that's one of the things we do, right? We help them with that because it is uncomfortable, and a lot of times they don't really want to do it. But so what are the pitfalls to avoid in giving feedback from your perspective, Sarah?
Yeah, there's a couple. One, I tend to see these pitfalls arrange themselves sometimes by personality types, but they all revolve around not wanting to be direct about what you're seeing and about what you hope to see or what the business needs from this person on your management team. If you are the sort of person who typically says whatever's on your mind, often the way feedback will come out without, if you're not intentional about it, is you sharing a whole lot of feelings about maybe how frustrated you are or what you've observed in a way that is talking around the change you need to see and not actually addressing the change you need to see. If you're someone who is more introverted or tends to lead maybe in a more soft-spoken manner, the pitfall on that side is to not actually say anything or to say it in such a roundabout way. You're trying so hard to be kind that the person is left wondering what your point is. Mm-hmm. But really, if you think about how to avoid both of those pitfalls, two things to remember. One, the purpose of feedback is to shape future behavior. That's really all you're looking for. And what that does is that takes away from you the burden of litigating the past. Because that's another pitfall you can fall into, is having such a long, in-depth discussion about what happened and why and how the different people involved feel about it, when in fact what you really need is a focus on the future. So if you keep in mind that the purpose of this feedback conversation is to shape future behavior in service of this person's growth and in service of what your business needs. And the second thing to keep in mind is that feedback is about observable behaviors. Think about the question, what would a video camera capture, right? It's not really worth frequently talking about what might be inside someone, how they might be feeling, how they might be thinking. You can touch on that a little bit, but what you really need is concrete behavior to either continue because it's great or to change because you need to see something different. But if you just focus on the future and on the concrete behaviors that you need to see, the results you need to see, you can avoid a lot of those pitfalls.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Sarah, let me ask you, it's interesting because, you see all these studies and employee turnover is, bad for the organization. It's very expensive. And yet I think, owners can fall into the trap of, they get the great employee, but then they really don't nurture them. And I think like even in our own firm, a lot of times when we do these evaluations, one of the biggest critiques of the staff is they're not getting enough feedback. So do you see it as, how normally almost everybody has an annual review, I guess, but it's got to be more often than that, right? It has to be kind of ongoing. Is that correct or not?
Oh, absolutely. If you as a business owner have not given somebody on your management team feedback this week, you probably are not doing it enough.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of easy in the CPA world because we have these projects. So you can kind of do it at the end of every project, kind of review, what went well, what went wrong. And, like you said, how to make changes for future engagement. So it kind of lends itself to that.
Whenever the review is, annual is typical, sometimes semi-annual, but there should be no surprises in those reviews for the employee, right? Because the dialogue should be ongoing. Like you said, there should be some kind of interaction on a weekly basis. And so they shouldn't be surprised come January or whenever it is by any kind of performance thing that's significant.
And I'll say that, like, when we talk about you should be having a conversation like this at least weekly, I'm a big fan of an example from Mark Horstman, the founder of Manager Tools, who talks about the analogy is like driving a car. If you are driving a car and you keep your hands completely static on the wheel and you don't move your hands at all, you will eventually drive into the ditch, because you will, your car is probably, a half of 1 degree off. And over a course of miles, that will take you off the road, right? If you are someone who drives a car, you know that you are constantly making minuscule adjustments on the wheel that you don't even think about because you've been driving for 20, 30, 40 years. Feedback is like that. You should be giving feedback so frequently that any one instance of feedback is just not that big a deal. Hey, you did a great job on leading that meeting with the team. Love it. You were very clear and articulate and inspired the group. Keep it up. That's feedback. Hey, love that you have these financial reports all ready to go and highlighted the decisions that I needed as the owner to make. Thank you. Would love to see that continue next time. That's feedback. So when we say these conversations should be having constantly, that's the kind of conversations we're talking about. It doesn't have to be a huge deal. You should just be alert, aware, noticing the things that are contributing to the success of your business or the things that are detracting from it, and just talking about it as you go.
Yeah, just in the course of doing business during the course of the week with people. Yeah, so you just use that analogy of driving a car. From our perspective, based on what we're trying to help owners to do, right? Build this transferable business that's going to be sellable for maximum value. Driving this car has to be a priority and it's uncomfortable, but it's got to be a priority driving this car. It can feel like an old clunky car sometimes, maybe because it's so uncomfortable, but it's got to be a priority if you want to be transferable, sellable, and drive value. Yeah, and so if I'm preparing my management team to take on more responsibility, which that's part of driving this car, is I got to do that. Me, the owner, I have to become less and less responsible on a day-to-day basis. My management team needs to become more and more responsible. What kind of feedback am I going to be giving them regularly and consistently?
That's a great question. There's a book called The Next Level, What Executives Know, or What Insiders Know About Executive Success by Scott Eblin. And it can be easy, I think, for a business owner to think, an executive is at a Fortune 500 corporation. I'm just a business owner. I would say that's not true. If you're a business owner, you're an executive. And he talks about how to build teams, of leaders under you who get things done. And he has this great section where he says the thing that got you where you are is you are the go-to person who gets stuff done. And that is a great thing to be until it's no longer a great thing to be. If you are looking at an exit, you need to let go of being the go-to person who gets stuff done at all levels of your business and pick up being the leader who's building a team of go-to people who get stuff done under you, because that's what they're going to have to do going forward. So what that means is you are giving your management team feedback about their leadership of their area or of the people underneath them. So for example, you're probably not going around those people to give feedback directly to the employees under them. Instead, you're pointing out to the member of your management team, here's some patterns I'm seeing. I'd like for you to address it. What do you think of this? How do you want to address this? How can I help you? So you'll find yourself coaching and leadership skills a lot. You will be shifting away from telling someone how to do something to telling your management team what you need them to achieve and inviting them into it, figuring out the how with you and eventually without you, so that they can then come to you with a recommendation and you can make a decision, go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And the go-to people that you're referring to, the go-to people who get stuff done, as you're building and strengthening this management team and just your team in general, as the owner, you're going to be looking for those go-to people who get stuff done. When you're not there, who's the go-to person or people that get stuff done? Because then you might be identifying your future successor or successors to even maybe own the company eventually, one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I think about feedback, you can think about it on a scale, almost like you're going up the stairs. The thing that happens on a weekly or more basis is just these casual, hey, I saw that thing you did. It was great. Would love to see more of that. Or, hey, I noticed this happened and it had this result. Next time, how could we get a different result? Right? It's just a real low key, normal conversation. Your employees and your management team should be so used to hearing this kind of thing from you that it's just not a big deal. If you're in a situation where you're noticing your management team may be leading their team in a way that isn't effective, and you've mentioned it a couple times, you're not seeing change, a lot of business owners get stuck there. Like, I've given feedback, what do I do now? And the key there is to name the pattern as a pattern. You have a separate conversation where you say, hey, we've talked about this a few times. I'm seeing a pattern of XYZ. I want to talk about this because I take this seriously and I've invested in your growth and the growth of the company. That's a separate conversation where you name the pattern as a pattern, and you'll be amazed how often that can help someone on your management team realize, oh, this is important. This is a big deal. It wasn't just this like day to day, which granted would have been great if they had responded earlier, right? But once you name that as a pattern, it kind of unlocks a new way for you to talk about it and for you to have conversations going forward to see the kind of change you want. So that's another shift that I'll suggest if you are giving feedback to your management team on their leadership of their division or their people, and you've said the same thing a few times and haven't seen the results you hope for, shift to naming the pattern as a pattern. Have this pattern conversation. And I think that'll unlock a lot for you.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining us again today.
It's a pleasure.
You're a regular, so of course you'll be back soon, I'm sure.
Hey, Sarah, for our listeners, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. So they can visit my website at sarahgz.com. It's the first and last letters of my last name. So it's sarahgz.com. And there's a way to contact me or sign up for my newsletter there. I would love to chat with any of you, whoever would like to get in touch with me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
And listeners, if you want help in maximizing the value of your business or planning for your eventual exit, you can reach Pat and Corby at 301-859-0860. You can reach me at 301-951-9090. And if you benefited from today's episode, please consider liking and sharing it on social media. And thanks for listening. And until next time on the Exit Readiness podcast, this is Walter Dial and Pat Ennis signing off.